2022 will set the second year as the return of the premier offline world organization of esports racing, otherwise better known as Power, will return for a second season of the V8 Cup Series. Hello everyone and welcome back, as today we are going to showcase the season preview, take a look at all of the changes and what to expect going into our second annual season of the Power V8 Cup Series, and take a look at all 17 teams that are going to be competing in the premier level of offline racing here in 2022. It's going to be very exciting. There's a lot of changes, some new expansions, some new rules coming out, so we'll go ahead and get you covered and caught up with all of the news going on in the Power world. Starting off with the race format, a little bit of a reminder for those who may be new or have been a little bit behind on the formats. Our race lengths are going to take place between 45 minutes and an hour. There was a few races we had that went over the hour mark last year, but the V8 Cup body is going to try their best to keep it within that 45 minute to hour range. This time the series is going to be committed to a 20 race schedule, as was seen last season, making it full 20 races this year as well, with a 42 car field to boot, with the introduction of a new secondary series, the Power Thunder Lights division. This means that the V8 Cup has decided to end the part-time and one-offs program, meaning each and every single team and car that you will be seeing in this video today is going to be in each and every single race this season. There will be no DNQs or go homers for the V8 Cup Series this year, so for a lot of drivers who had some struggles qualifying or making their way in, they won't have those issues this year, as each and every single car will be locked into every race. As always, these are power specification cars, meaning that all the cars are equally rated and are equally durable, so there will be no failures due to parts or engine failures and stuff of that nature, along with the return of double file restarts, not full double file with the lead lap cars, but lappers will line up on the inside and the leaders will line up on the outside, along with the returning race back to the line procedure for cautions and no green-white checkers. Once again, races can end under yellow, with this time the biggest change being that the top 20 race finishers will earn points, increasing from 15 finishers to 20 this year. Will be one of the major changes we'll see in V8 Cup action. Take a look as well at our championship gauntlet. This will be one of the biggest focus for all of these teams and drivers. This is going to determine who our champion will be. After the 12th race of the season, the regular season championship will cut off and end, and the championship gauntlet will begin. The top 10 drivers in the point standings will have all their points reset even, and only those 10 drivers will be in contention for the championship going into the final 8 races of the season. From there, those 10 drivers will battle it out amongst each other, and the driver with the highest amount of points towards the end of the season of those 10 gauntlet contenders will be crowned the season champion. The first round of the championship gauntlet will once again return to Watkins Glen, while this year the season finale will move locations from Middle Georgia over to the Dodge Stadium, going across the East Coast from the south to the north, as it will be a huge event in a huge stadium. It definitely will be one you won't want to miss. Now we'll go ahead and take a look at our expanded points format. As mentioned before, we are increasing the amount of points finishers from 15 to 20 this year. So more drivers will be able to get in on the points, and that will make a huge factor overall towards the actual championship runs, given that there are more opportunities to score points when you can, and they are incredibly important. As returning from last season, the first place finisher will score 30 points, with second place scoring 25, third 22, fourth 20, fifth scoring 18, and sixth scoring 16. First through seventh in the point standings is virtually unchanged, as the format and order and how the points are paid out is the exact same, What will change is the points payout from 8th all the way down to 20th, as those will all be determined by a singular point, with 8th place scoring 13 points and going all the way down to 20th place, where it only pays 1 point. Now, of course, there are also bonus points on the line once again this season. You will see if you lead a lap and score within the points, you will get 2 points added to your tally. A fastest lap and a points finish will earn you 3 points, and the most laps led will get you 5 bonus points, with the maximum achievable points being 40. But remember, you have to score within the points in order to be eligible for those bonus points. If you are eligible for those bonus points but finish outside of the points finishing spots, you will not get those bonus points. Let's take a look now at our schedule for this season, as we're going to see a big change up in some of the races. 4 new tracks being added, as some are being replaced or a couple being downsized to just one singular race. The season is going to be broken up evenly between the track types, so we will see 5 road course races, 5 short tracks, 5 speedways, and 5 super speedways, making it a nice even balanced schedule. We are going to kick off the season once again at Daytona, where we will have the Royalty Grafix 500, the second annual race at the World Center of Racing. That will definitely be a spectacle to see. And we will once again return to Atlanta for the second race, as well as these 2 trips in Atlanta and Middle Georgia. These are going to be the only stops that we make this year in Georgia, both those races losing a date, as the after Middle Georgia, it will once again kick us off to the West Coast swing, where we will head over to Denver for the oval variant of that track. Then we'll move over to Wisconsin to go to the Old Spice Speedway for our first road course of the year. Then we'll make the trip out to California. We'll be in Oakland for the Golden State Motorsports Park, which will host the 6th race of the year. You'll notice the first through 6 races of the schedule are virtually unchanged from last year, but these next 4 tracks include all of our major changes, where we will visit the Auto Club Speedway for the first time in the V8 Cup Series, and then we will also go over to a new super speedway in Seattle, the Armory Digital Super Speedway, where that race will get one of 2 races over at Seattle, so it's going to be very huge. That's going to be an insane track and race. Then we'll go all the way back over to the East Coast, where we'll be in New York for the 9th race of the season at Dodge Stadium for the first of 2 races, followed by Pittsburgh, where we will go to the Steelbag Stadium, another short track, back-to-back short track races on the schedule there in the northeast part of the country. Then the final 2 races of the regular season, we will head over to Charlotte for our only visit there this year, once again at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. And then finally, the regular season finale will once again be held at the Daytona International Speedway, making 3 super speedway races within the regular season. After Daytona for the second time, going into the 13th race, these races will be the gauntlet races. The championship contenders, where the top 10 in the points will battle it out amongst themselves to see who will be the second ever V8 Cup Series champion. Watkins Glen is going to be the site of the first race once again, and Indianapolis as well will return to become the second race of the championship gauntlet. We will go all the way to the West Coast for the West Coast Gauntlet Swing. We will be in Seattle for Armory Digital for the second time this season, and then we will return to the Denver Roval, and this time Old Spice will gain a date, becoming the 17th race of the season, and being the only road course to have 2 dates this year. We'll return for the 18th race, where Martinsville will lose a date to get more importance on the gauntlet race, as it was an absolutely stunning race. One of the races of the year last season at Martinsville was that gauntlet race. Then we'll return for Talladega, where it will be the lone race, the second to last race of the season, going to be a very intense and crucial race. It's going to be insane how everyone does in that one. And then finally, our season finale is going to take place at Dodge Stadium, where we will visit that track for the second time in the year. All in all, a lot of tracks returning and going to be in similar spots on the schedule as they were last year, but we do also have a good bit of new tracks, 4 new tracks in total that will take up 6 of the races for this season. All right, it is time now to see the previews of all 17 teams that are going to be competing full time in the V8 Cup Series this year for the second season. As mentioned earlier, each and every single one of these teams are going to be locked into all 20 races of the V8 Cup Series this season. Of course, stuff could be subject to change, but we believe for the most part that this is going to be the finalized roster. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first team we'll be looking at is Double or Nothing Motorsports. Double or Nothing Motorsports has been one of, if not the most unstable team in the V8 Cup paddock. The satellite team for Jeff Bolton Racing, this team has gone through 4 different drivers in the span of less than a year for just one single car. The team had to scramble for their 5th driver for this year, as the original plan for them was to have Herbert Oaks III as their driver for this year in the number 38. Originally, it seemed like a pretty questionable move, but he had one lone sponsor in Sparta Fuel Energy. That would all change when it was revealed that Sparta Fuel Energy wasn't actually capable of being able to be the primary funder of the V8 Cup Series ride, and as a result, Nick Kennedy would be forced to drop the plans with their driver and have it all fall through. This would leave the team to have to scramble for a replacement, and they would go ahead and land on rookie driver Saber Fox, who will be one of 3 drivers that will compete for the Rookie of the Year status this season. Admittedly, Fox will bring in some pretty interesting funding, but it appears that all the checks on their sponsors and companies are going through, so that's at least some good signs. Plus, they seem to be legit, and Fox's team seems to be very enthusiastic to be a part of the series. And the equipment seems to be very capable of winning races as well. The team was able to manage 3 top 3 finishes, two of those being second place finishes with Mitchell Collins, who many thought was going to be the driver that the team would return, but it doesn't appear that Collins may have much interest in returning to the series, which is why this team has had to scramble for the drivers and the funding that they have. The car and team has definitely shown flashes of success and the capability to put their car in victory lane. They just need to have a consistent driver that can help build them up for the future. Hopefully they've found that in Saber Fox. A3 Scarlet Motorsports is one of the newly full-time teams making the jump from part-time competition last year. Team owner Flandre Wilson will lead the team and interestingly will not run Dodges like her main team counterpart. The team will be one of the many Chevy teams in competition this season, as they've certainly made an interesting choice in their driver hire for the main car. Landon Lonenbach has been tapped to drive the number 90 for A3SM, and admittedly it does seem like a very questionable hire given that there appear to have been more quality candidates out there with more experience than Lonenbach. In just about 10 starts last season, Landon Lonenbach was only able to score in the points once with a career high finish of 12th. It definitely seems like funding played a big part in the hiring process, as Lonenbach will bring his own money for half the season, meaning Flandre Wilson only had to find connections for the other half as she was able to do so. We'll just have to see how this team can perform given that there's still a lot of unknowns surrounding them, but they are going in with a little bit of experience as they were able to run 2 part-time cars in the span of the final 6 races last year. So at least they do have a little bit of some R&D going into their first full-time season. Crown Chevy Racing is looking to bounce back and build off of the knowledge and experience gained in their first season. The team will retain their main 2 drivers from last season. Dylan Hayden and team owner Roberto Crown Jr. will both return to their respective rides this year. Crown Jr. seemed to be a championship favorite going into the gauntlet last season, as he was the regular season champion and managed to land on the pole 3 times over the course of the year. But after the first race of the gauntlet, Crown Jr. would go on a downward spiral in the last 7 races, with poor qualifying efforts and performances, meaning that Crown Jr. wouldn't be much of a factor for most of the championship gauntlet. Almost the exact opposite, however, could be said about Dylan Hayden. Hayden was sidelined for the 3 races after the first race of the season, where he was involved in a vicious crash, getting caught up in the catch fence, and would unfortunately go on a little bit of a downward spiral himself in terms of his performances, going on a long DNQ streak. But towards the middle of the season, Hayden was starting to finally make some races, being able to actually perform and get some experience under his belt, and he would start to turn his luck around and start developing some momentum. Before you know it, he was able to run up at the front, start competing for wins, and towards the 17th race of the season at Atlanta, Dylan Hayden would go on to win for the first time for not only himself, but his team as well. Many expected Roberto Crown Jr. to be able to take the first win for Crown Chevy Racing, but Dylan Hayden would turn out to be the true upset. As a result, this team's going to look to rebound after Hayden's sluggish start and Crown Jr.'s unimpressive gauntlet run to see if they can show what they truly have and not look to be pretenders, but real true championship contenders. Elite Forces Racing came oh so close to shocking the world and becoming the upset V8 Cup Series champions, but with just 30 laps left in the season finale, Justin Henley would be taken out of the lead by one of his main championship rivals in a huge crash, ending his race and championship hopes in there. While the incident definitely disgusted the team, it certainly hasn't discouraged them, as the EFR team will look to reclaim similar success from last year and try to capitalize on the championship this year. Last season, the team did run a second full-time car and a third part-time car between team owner Roger James and development driver Weston Roper. But both of those programs have been axed and shut down, as Roger James plans to step away from the driver's seat this year, and EFR released the likes of Weston Roper after his part-time races were up. So, that means that the whole entire team for the V8 Cup division is going to solely focus on the number 75 car and Justin Henley, as they believe they are his best chance to get themselves a championship. He won his very first race filling in for the injured Roger James at Middle Georgia last season, and he damn near won at the likes of Martinsville and the season finale at Middle Georgia. Like we said, he came 30 laps away from being the upset champion and taking it all in his first season, where he came in originally to be a development part-time driver and was promptly promoted to full-time status after quick success. Hopefully now, with the team being able to develop around him for a full season and all the eggs being put in the 75's basket, we'll see if Elite Forces Racing will have what it takes to claim the glory that they so deserved last year. Fitzwater Australia Racing showed at the end of last season that they are for sure one of the strongest, if not the strongest teams to have not claimed a win last year. The 4-car Dodge powerhouse will retain their entire lineup, as each of their drivers will run it back. Ruben Gonzalez will return to the number 26 and will look to build off of his championship gauntlet appearance last year. A little bit of a quiet dark horse contender, Gonzalez was able to sneak his way into the championship gauntlet playoffs and was admittedly not much of a factor during most of the gauntlet, but did keep himself in contention and at least had the chances of being able to take the win throughout the entirety of the championship gauntlet. He's going to look to need to be a little bit stronger, as he really didn't have too many strong runnings, albeit from the first race at Daytona where he finished second, but he still had a lot of quiet, consistent runs that were able to put him in the position to be in the running for the gauntlet in the first place. Cody Goforth will also look to come back to the number 60 car, still in search of his first win, after coming runner-up in back-to-back races in heartbreaking fashion at the second-to-last Martinsville race and Talladega race. He came runner-up in both those races, really had the chance to win, but unfortunately it did not go Cody Goforth's way. Still though, Goforth looked really strong towards the second half of the year. Admittedly, in the first half, he did not run very well and DNQ'd quite a bit. I believe DNQing a total of 4 times. But the team as a whole was able to turn around on that, and Cody Goforth would turn out to be a real true factor in a lot of races at the end of the season. Nelson Reeves will also return to his number 76 and will look to build upon the consistency that he was working on last year. He came oh so close to getting in the championship gauntlet had his teammate not bounced him out. But still, Reeves showed to be a very consistent and solid contender throughout the majority of the V8 Cup Series races. Zachary Fitzwater Sr. will return to drive his number 59 once again, and he will also look to build off of his late season performance. Just like Goforth, Fitzwater had a pretty sluggish start towards the beginning of last year, but at the halfway mark they were able to turn it around, and Fitzy was able to nab himself a lot of poles, a lot of points finishes, and impressively enough, he got all 4 cars in the top 15 going into the final race of the season in points. Still, the team is in search of their first win and will be looking to break out and be a true title contender going into their second year. Good Smile Racing will be returning to V8 Cup action in Season 2 with a refresh to their lineup. Expanding to 2 cars this season, team owner John Ritson is going to step away from the driver's seat and will move over to the owner spots. Ritson has decided to promote Zachary DeLello to full-time status in his number 77 Mercedes-Benz. DeLello had some ups and downs during the season, getting himself involved in some wrecks and some poor finishes, but he still kept his head in it and was overall a solid, decent driver. Hopefully he'll be able to build upon that momentum going into his second season and find himself a little bit of more luck and consistency. The team's going to hope to try to create some stability and confidence that he is needing and looking for. Their second driver hiring comes as a surprise, but on paper seems to be a pretty good choice. Miles Mashburn has been tapped to drive the number 05 Mercedes-Benz, and this is a little bit of a shock hiring, as originally Mashburn was expected to retire at the end of last season after he sold off the rights for his team for this year during the midpoint of last season. But apparently the V8 Cup bug was able to bite him towards the end of last year, and he searched around for what he could and was able to land at the GSR stable. Miles Mashburn should bring the team some pretty good knowledge on setting up and running the cars, as his team was able to build up some quiet but strong performances towards the end of the season, with one of their cars finishing in the top 15 in points by the end of the year. We'll just have to see what Mashburn can bring that momentum over to GSR, and as a whole, if that team can get some more stability and speed out of their cars. It is important to note that they are only one of 2 Mercedes teams and just 2 of 4 Mercedes cars in total in the field. For the second year in a row, JCM will start the season on a bit of a detoured path from their original plans before the season. On paper, the team for the most part is running back the same lineup, with the major change being the promotion given to 2-time winner Arvin Basic last year, as he would look to run exclusively with one team for the first time, and they seem to be very excited hiring on the road course ace to hopefully improve their program. Both Alrighty Alejo and James Fletcher are both stated to return, Fletcher moving over to the former ride of Cam Wright Sr. Fletcher looked to be a very good choice and a no-brainer, given that he won the first race for the team and holds their only win so far at Atlanta in the second race last year, and was able to make the championship gauntlet. Although, admittedly, Fletcher was not much of a factor during the championship gauntlet, but he was still at least able to qualify for it. And also, we saw Alrighty Alejo really make some quiet but solid runs and turned out to be a true assassin for the team, as he was able to claw his way up to the top 15 in points by the end of the season. Now, the final ride for JCM, however, was a tricky situation. The original plan was for the team to retain Solomon Sheridan and have Cam Wright Sr. move over to the ownership role strictly in that spot. However, there appeared to have been some underlying turmoil and issues, as the team would end up terminating the contract of Solomon Sheridan prematurely. This would force Cam Wright Sr. to have to step back into the driver's seat last second and not be able to have much time to put together a lot of sponsorship. It'll be interesting to see, as the team is proven race winners and can compete for the championship gauntlet, as they've already proven that they've had cars that can get well into the top 15 and compete for wins. Cam Wright Sr. admittedly hopefully won't be holding this team back too much. He did have some strong runs last year, but also had a lot of DNQs as well, which was the main reason why he contemplated going back to the ownership role in the first place. But we'll just have to see if he can build himself up and get some more consistency and try to get themselves back into those gauntlet contending spots that they need to be in. It'll be important for JCM as we believe this will be a make it or break it year for a couple of these drivers, and see if major changes will be going on internally, or if they'll look to retain a similar lineup and build around this lineup for the future. Jeff Bullen Racing returns to the VA Cup paddock with a main set of familiar faces while also introducing a new one. The main Blue Oval Brigade will see the return of Jeff Bolton as the team owner. Seishin Tomioka and Nick Kennedy will also all return. Bolton and Kennedy showed some good pace and speed, but at times lacked needed consistency and aggression. The 34 and 68 overall ran respectable seasons, but could use a little more luck this year to really take those programs to the next level. Meanwhile, however, though, Seishin Tomioka is a completely different story. He came to the team midway through the season after the sudden ban of Bradley Ream, leaving that spot open and having Tomioka fill it up, and he was immediately red hot off to the start, winning twice in his first 5 career starts. Tomioka was able to turn the JBR team into championship contenders in almost an instant. He ran solidly in the gauntlet, but did have some bad luck, preventing him from being a true championship contender. Many are looking out for this driver, though, as they believe he could be a true force to be reckoned with, as this year he's going to have an actual full season to build up his momentum and confidence in his stats. So it'll be really interesting to see how the 53 stable does going into their first full-time year. Now, for the last JBR card, the team had to pick up a new driver after the departure of JQ Halak. Jeff Bolton will take a chance on a rookie, and he signed on the number 37 of Zachariah Armstrong, who will be the second of 3 rookies that will be competing for Rookie of the Year in the VA Cup this season. Bolton believes his lineup is strong and experienced enough to help build and possibly help propel or carry the rookie even. As they look to be taking a shot on a brand new driver, hopefully Zachariah Armstrong can help bring some balance to this team, as overall the team is going to try to look for more success and break out as a major championship contender. Leland Motorsports is set to expand to a 3-car team, coming off of a chaotic season for the emerging Toyota team. Both the Hill brothers, Leland and Riley, will return to their respective rides this season, while their first race winner, Tari Lowell, will get a promotion to full-time status after a breakout win at Bristol last year. This team has been very interesting, as they are a 2-time race winner in the VA Cup, but still have had some major struggles over the course of last season and a lot to prove. A bad plague of D&Qs, getting involved in some pretty heavy accidents, and some sponsorship woes are just some of the incidents, to name a few. But the team has also ran incredibly well, with Leland Hill finishing in the top 20 in the points at the end of the season, and would go on to steal the win at the second-to-last Martinsville race going into the end of the year. It's clear that the team wants to be a powerhouse and is so desperately trying to be the top Toyota team. Leland Hill tried very hard to expand his team to 4 cars, but was unsuccessful in obtaining the right charters and franchises to do so. This will be a crucial season for Leland Motorsports, as they're going to try to break out as true championship contenders, and more than just the occasional race winner. Mercedes AMG Performance proved last season that you don't have to have the strength in numbers to be able to win it all. Ethan Hayden would go on to take the inaugural V8 Cup Series championship in upsetting fashion in the closing laps of the final race, giving himself and Mercedes the first ever Drivers' Championship by just 1 point. To no one's surprise, Ethan Hayden will return to the MAP team with his newly numbered number 1 to mark that he is the defending champion, and he will look to his Mercedes AMG team to try to defend the crown. While the decision of Ethan Hayden returning was a no-brainer for both sides, the decision on the second driver seemed to be a little bit more questionable. Marcus Brown, relative to team owner Henry Brown, will pilot the number 70 AMG full-time in the second V8 Cup Series season, and will be the second full-time Mercedes AMG car. This decision comes at a little bit of a surprise, given that Brown didn't really impress too much in his limited starts. He showed some moments of true speed and potential, mainly a really strong run in his debut race at Denver, but he also had some moments of mediocrity and lacklusterness and DNQ'd a couple of times as well. Most of the other part-time drivers that ran for the Mercedes factory team were able to outperform Brown overall in the points and stats category. Guys like Arvin Basic were able to knock off a win in just 5 starts with the team. Zachary DeLello was able to run a little bit more consistently. And their full-time driver Ben Crouch as well was able to be near top 20 in the points for most of the season. Many were surprised to not see Ben Crouch return to the 03 after he posted multiple poles and fought for a decent points finish, but a big major factor of going into this signing with Marcus Brown seems to be the family ties to the team and also potentially funding. These seem to be a big reason as to why the team didn't pursue their other drivers as some thought they would. Which, to be fair, Marcus Brown will bring in a little bit of funding to the team. 10 of the races that will be running will be covered by the Mercedes team, so it's essentially unsponsored. And admittedly, 5 of those races for Ethan Hayden will also be with AMG colors, so technically Mercedes will have to fund their own cars for a total of 15 races between the two cars. But Marcus Brown does bring in more money than what Ben Crouch did, as Crouch had to have their AMG colors for all 20 of last year's races. Either way, it's going to be interesting to see how this team does, given that one half of their team is a proven champion and race winner, and the other half is unproven and still has a lot to earn and learn. So it will be important for Mercedes to try to defend their crown, as they will have the least amount of cars in manufacturer groups in total. But it should mean that they will get the most attention and manufacturer support out of any of the other teams. So that will be important to keep an eye on. Owen Scott is the other Ronnie Racing driver that owns a single car team and is electing to run Chevys instead of their boss's Dodge counterparts. OSR ran part-time with 2 cars last season to some success, with them achieving their first win in a fuel mileage race in the second to last race at Talladega. However, the team decided not to re-sign either of their 2 drivers last year in Chris Parker and Devon Fair, who Devon Fair ran pretty solidly and consistently and showed that he could be a good force if he landed on the right team, and Chris Parker, who got them their first win. Instead, Scott managed to sign Xander Howell to drive the number 99 Chevy for OSR. Scott apparently liked what he saw in Howell over the course of last season, and it also helps that he appears to be bringing in all the funding necessary for the team to function. As mentioned before, Howell did showcase some strong starts running in a couple of different teams, most notably Leland Motorsports, but he did also have some struggles and some bad luck go his way as well, and it seemed to have happened a little bit more than the good luck would. With the focus being primarily on Howell, the 99 team is hoping that their drive can break through and showcase the true potential that they have and are capable of. Parker Enterprises is set to expand, as the team will increase from a 1-car team in Season 1 to a 3-car team in Season 2. Team owner Blake Parker will return to his number 07 Chevy, and while admittedly he didn't really see much success last year, he's going to hope to try to bounce back and have a rebound season this year. And for his other 2 cars, he has made 2 internal signings to make up the rest of his field. Ricky Freeman Jr. will get the promotion to the number 7 car full-time this year after running a very solid part-time campaign last year. Freeman isn't a very popular driver among the fans and the paddock, but admittedly he did run very solidly and consistently in his limited starts last year and could prove to be a very strong title contender. For the final ride, the team will promote Chris Parker, relative of Blake, to the number 33 Chevy full-time. Chris Parker ran okay in the races that he was able to start in. He had a decent amount of starts between Parker's team and Owen Scott's team, but this decision was pretty much jump speed after the fact that Chris Parker was able to win at Talladega at the end of last season, and the team will hope that Parker will be able to replicate that same success this year. Parker Enterprises is hoping they have put themselves on the trajectory towards success for the second V8 Cup Series season. Pole Position Racing is another part-time team from last year that will make the jump to full-time this year. Team owner Nelson Reeves will look to build around young driver Riley Spurley in the number 41 Toyota. The team had some ups and downs across the three cars that they entered last year, with them achieving their first career win in upset fashion in Indy at the beginning of the championship gauntlet. That was with driver Alexander Rowe, but unfortunately for the team, he is not going to return as he is instead signed elsewhere. So the team has landed on Riley Spurley, who technically isn't a rookie in V8 Cup Series standards, but he might as well damn be, as the only race he's been able to really enter was at the end of last year at Talladega, where he managed a 20th place finish. With that being said, that 20th place finish and a D&Q is all that Riley Spurley has to show for the two races that he entered last year. So there are an incredible amount of unknowns around how he is going to perform. It'll be interesting to see, given that the equipment is definitely capable of winning races and running well, but the driver is incredibly inexperienced and has a lot of unknowns based around how he'll perform. Hopefully PPR will be able to start and finish in the spot that their name implies. The second four-car Dodge powerhouse team, Ronnie Racing, will return with a familiar lineup to last season. Race winners Owen Scott and Flandre Wilson will return to their respective rides, with team owner Ronnie Martin also expected to return to his number 92 Dodge. The final ride was an internal promotion for John McFadden, as he and his number 89 Dodge will be full-time this season. Overall, the team ran pretty well, with 2 race wins in total between Owen Scott and Flandre Wilson, and a gauntlet appearance from Owen Scott as well. And John McFadden did run incredibly consistent in his limited starts with the team. However, it wasn't all perfect for the Ronnie Racing team, as they did face some issues and internal turmoil during the first season. Team owner Ronnie Martin and driver Carl Untersweffer had some heated discussions over the season and an ultimate falling out, as Untersweffer would leave the sport entirely after the first V8 Cup Series season. The main dispute between the two was over the performance of the number 43 car, as it appeared that it wasn't up to the standards of Ronnie Martin. Although, there are some that have pointed out the fact that Martin and Untersweffer ran nearly identical, as the Argentinian driver only finished 1 point ahead of the German-Croatian driver. Still though, Untersweffer has been dumped from the ride, and of course Ronnie Martin will keep his because he pays the bills. As for Owen Scott, his regular season went very well, winning at Charlotte and looked like a true championship contender going into the gauntlet. But unfortunately for Scott, once the gauntlet began, it seemed like his luck would do a full 180, as he suffered incredibly bad luck over the course of the entire gauntlet. He ran very well in most of the races, looking to have had top 10, top 15 performances, and was a major contender for the win at Indianapolis. But as we said, he just had incredible bad luck, getting involved in a lot of first lap incidents, major wrecks, and just overall could barely finish races, and was not much of a championship contender in the gauntlet. With many of potential race wins and solid finishes slipping through the hands of getting involved in many wrecks and final races this season, Ronnie Racing is looking to bounce back from their poor gauntlet performance and are going to try to prove that they are true race-winning and gauntlet championship contenders and do not want to be considered pretenders. Hopefully, though, for some of their other teams, they can get a little bit more consistency and luck to go their way, as admittedly, some drivers like Flandre Wilson and Ronnie Martin weren't the most consistent over the course of the season. But hopefully they'll be able to turn that around and build off of what they've performed last year. Sinclair Canada Racing will return with a newly revamped and expanded roster, as they will try to take the V8 Cup Series by storm this season. Honda really liked what they saw from the team and will make a huge investment in them, and overall the manufacturer will expand from 3 cars to 5. The team will see David Dixon return to the number 45 car, and he will be the only full-time driver from last season to return to SCR this year. The team dropped Myron Felder and Priya McShane and had made 2 big signings for those cars that we'll mention in a second here. Team owner Michael Canaday will promote himself to full-time status after he achieved the team's first career win at Watkins Glen last year and the only win for Sinclair Canada Racing so far. The other 2 cars would be filled by external signings, as Devon Fair and JQ Halak would be signed on for the final 2 rides. The team is looking to make some serious noise this year, as Devon Fair showed to be an incredibly consistent driver and was able to contend for some race wins. And JQ Halleck also showed some pretty good speed as well, and will hopefully be able to improve upon some of her bad luck and woes from last year. The team was also able to get the win last season and came very close to winning on multiple occasions as well. While they weren't able to get a car in the gauntlet last season, they look very strong and poised to be able to do so this year. Honda seems to be very keen on this team and will make a huge investment into them, but as mentioned earlier, this isn't going to be the only Honda team. The other Honda team will be another team going by the acronym of SCR, this time Southern Cross Racing, a new team that will serve as the satellite team to Sinclair Canada Racing and is owned by one of their own in David Dixon. The team also has made a very solid choice in the hiring process in Alexander Rowe. Rowe showed in the races that he was able to start in to be very fast and aggressive, and he'd end up winning it all in Indianapolis with pole position racing. Rowe did have some qualifying issues with a few DNQs, but it's believed it shouldn't be an issue this year, as he should be in a little bit of some better equipment, and also will not have to worry about DNQing as each car will be locked in. There's still a lot of unknowns about this team, given about the expansion, how much support they'll get from Honda, but it is clear that Honda believes that they have a bright future ahead of them in the sport of the V8 Cup, and they're hoping they can run as well as their parent team. The final team to go over, and last but not least, the final team to preview is Vortex Racing. Vortex Racing was one of the strongest teams last season as they were able to capture 2 race wins and was the only team in the field to have 2 cars make the championship gauntlet. The team is set to expand from 3 cars to 4 this season, and they will be the first Toyota team to make it to 4 cars entries. While the team ran incredibly strong last year, there's still some concerns with their lineup for this season. The 2 drivers that aren't major concerns are team owner Brett Bishop and Christian Vargas, as they will return to their respective rides, being the 2 drivers that were able to win last year, and Christian Vargas was already on a multi-season deal. However, the next 2 rides and decisions were a little bit more of a concern, as it was revealed Chris White, their other championship gauntlet contender, would not end up returning with the team and to the sport, as a matter of fact, as he did not appear to have the funding secured like he did last year. As a result, that would leave his ride vacant, and it would mean that a driver would have to be promoted from the Vortex Racing squad. They would land on Dale Cole Jr., who made 6 starts with the team last year, to some mixed results. He had a best career finish of 6, but he did also have a couple of DNQs in there as well. He's a little bit inexperienced, but does seem to potentially have some speed and capability to finish well and maybe be a race winner. The last driver that they would pick for their 4th car would be one out of left field, and this would be a complete rookie in Hector Palma, who is expected to drive the number 72, and he will be the final Rookie of the Year contender this season. It's interesting to see with these 2 decisions, as obviously Cole Jr. was very inconsistent in his limited starts, and Palma, well, will have to really prove his capability, as again he will be one of 3 drivers that we are going into this season completely unknown about their capabilities. It'll be interesting to see what Vortex Racing can do, as they will have a lot on their plate, as they will try to once again contend for race wins and championships while also balancing the development of 2 of their more inexperienced drivers. And with that, that is everything you need to know going into Season 2 of the Power V8 Cup Series. Coverage from Daytona will begin soon in the following weeks, as we are set to take on the first race of the season, the Royalty Grafix 500, live from the Daytona International Speedway, the 2nd annual Great American Race, and you will not want to miss it. It's going to be here live on the channel, premiering at a time that will be announced very soon. We hope to see a bunch of you guys there for the live race. It is not going to be one you will want to miss. We'll see you there. In the meantime, be sure to check out the Power social medias and our sponsors. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will see you next time at Daytona.